These stories highlight ongoing struggles and triumphs within Indigenous communities, from land disputes and cultural preservation to leadership in conservation and global representation. While challenges persist, whether it's in the fight for sacred site protections, community control over historical spaces, or equal opportunities in fashion, each case reflects resilience, advocacy, and a commitment to shaping a more inclusive future. Central Land Council has accused the government for sidelining mob. The ongoing dispute at Sister Kate's has culminated a dramatic confrontation. We have women's rangers from the Kimberleys sharing their knowledge on a nationwide level. And finally, let's have a look at First Nations model with his goals set on being the first Aboriginal model to walk in Milan's international runway. More of that later. Kaya, I'm Leanne Djilandi Dolby, and this is the National Indigenous Times Daily News Bulletin for the 25th of March, 2025. The Central Land Council has strongly criticised proposed changes to the Northern Territory Sacred Sites Act, accusing the government of sidelining Indigenous groups and failing to engage in meaningful consultation. Lands Planning and Environment Minister Joshua Burgoyne announced the CLP government intends to amend the Act to streamline applications for work in and around protected Indigenous cultural sites. The Act, unchanged since 1989, will also allow for transfer of Indigenous Areas Protection Authority certificates when properties are sold, a move largely influenced by pastoralist lobby concerns. Burgoyne assured the amendments would strengthen protections for sacred sites, while ensuring a more efficient regulatory process. However, the CLC has rejected these claims, arguing that traditional owners and land councils were not properly consulted. In a strongly worded statement, CLC Chair Warren Williams accused the Minister of treating them with disrespect and failing to provide substantive details about the proposed changes. Williams stated that during a recent meeting, the Minister refused to share specifics, instead offering vague assurances about the government's intentions. He described the process as a cynical ticker-box exercise rather than a genuine consultation with affected Indigenous communities. The CLC fears the changes will weaken Indigenous land rights and that the government is rushing the amendments without sufficient time for consultation. The ongoing dispute over the former site of Sister Kate's home for Aboriginal children has intensified, culminating in a dramatic confrontation where a group of Indigenous people cut the chain from the site's gates. This action led to current occupants affiliated with the former board of the Binanging Quirt Institute calling the police, who subsequently ordered them to leave. The incident marks a significant escalation in a long-running battle over the control of the historically significant site. Earlier in the day, more than 40 Indigenous people, mostly Noongar people, and including a number of former Sister Kate's residents, had a picnic to discuss the future of Sister Kate's. A number of people walked down and used an angle grinder to cut the chain from the gate, prompting a response from the current occupants and law enforcement. Sister Kate's, located in Queen's Park, Bulu, operated for decades as a home for Aboriginal children forcibly removed from their families under government policies that created the stolen generations. The property is owned by BKI, an agency of the Uniting Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress, which is linked to Uniting Church. The dispute over its control began when Congress asked the former BKI to vacate the site in December. However, the board and its supporters have continued to occupy it since then, arguing for their right to remain. The newly formed BKI board signed a memorandum with Yokai, Healing Our Spirit, the WA Stolen Generations Aboriginal Corporation, granting Yokai a 1-year commercial lease of the site for the symbolic cost of $1. The transition has not been without controversy. The former BKI board and its supporters argued that the site is a sacred Noongar birthing place and should not be controlled by external organisations. Some Noongar elders have disputed this claim, further deepening divisions within the community. Tensions at the site erupted during the gate-cutting incident. Video footage shared on social media appears to show Dr. Jim Morrison restraining protester Curtis Makaroo, who had reached through the gate in an apparent attempt to prevent the chain from being cut. The Land Back for Stolen Generations social media account, which shared the video, said that Makaroo, a Noongar Stolen Generations descendant, plans to press charges for the alleged assault. More than 20 women from the Kimberley Rangers teams attended the first National Indigenous Women's Ranger Network in Gimoy, joined by 190 Indigenous Rangers from across Australia. The 3-day forum celebrated women's leadership in land and sea management, with cultural activities and discussions led by traditional owners and representatives from various ranger teams, including Whadjuk, Gooniyandi and Yawuru. The event highlighted the crucial role of women rangers and introduced the National Indigenous Women's Rangers Awards. Winners included Taylor Mitchell, Zali Hayden, Marquita Sullivan, Alice Munnis, and Cindy Lou Togo. Balangara Ranger Joanne Grant shared her inspiration from meeting veteran rangers and expressed her desire to engage in younger generations in conservation. The forum included with a gala event honouring women's resilience and leadership in the sector. First Nations model Pierce Jones has signed with an international agency, Next London, marking a major career milestone. The Bundjalung man, currently based in Sydney, aims to expand his career in Europe, hoping to become the first Indigenous male model to walk in an international runway in Milan. Jones emphasised the importance of health, persistence, and a positive mindset for success in modelling. He recalls a career-defining moment with a Lee Jeans campaign in Byron Bay, which enforced his passion for the industry. Beyond personal success, Jones is committed to representing and inspiring Indigenous talent on a global scale, striving for greater First Nations visibility in international fashion. That's today's Daily News Roundup from the National Indigenous Times. For more news, head to nit.com.au and sign up for our free newsletter.